Hi, today I'll be coding something like this. Before I start, a word of warning. I may be able to code the geometry, basic functionality part pretty fast, but I also want to make this a part of the CodePen challenge, and that part, making it colorful in a way that's not abominable, that may prove to be quite challenging for me. I'm a tech, not an artist. So if you don't have much time and you're only interested in the technical part, now you can just watch the first half of the video where I'll get a result that looks kind of like this. So yeah, not too aesthetically appealing, but functional. But I should stop talking and start coding now, right? So we're going to have a 2D assembly, and within it we're going to have a loop, which may be a bit too much in this case, but oh well, I don't like repeating stuff, so let I going from 0 all the way up to 2. Okay, within it we're going to have a div class, and it's because we can't have dot emoji, it's going to throw an error. You may have seen that in some of my previous videos. Here we're going to set an index as a custom property, and this is set to the loop index. And now we can move on to putting stuff on the screen. So we're going to have that disk. First off, we're going to start with a dimension. Let's say something like 5 and let me just show you here. So that is going to be basically the diameter of those inner disks. Then we're going to have a gap, and then we're also going to have the width of that line. So that inner part, those inner disks, those are basically going to be the content box. The gap is going to be the padding, and the yellowy track, the track on which the yellowy wiggly thing is moving, so that is going to be the border. So let's set a gap. This one is going to be something like that. Then for the border, let's say something like 3 Now here, set the width, set the height, just set the background just so that we can see stuff. Okay, let's set a padding. Oh, right, that's the dimension. Set it to the gap. Border solid, that border width. Let's make it red for now. Okay, now let's limit this background to the content box. And if you're not familiar with the background clip property, I wrote an article about it, and it explains things in a lot of detail. You can check that one out. It's going to be linked in the description. Now, something you may have seen I do in my videos. So body div. On the body and on all div elements, I set display grid. And also on all div elements and on all pseudo elements, so before and after, we set a few things. First off, grid area. So everything is going to be stacked in the same cell, which is at the intersection between the first row and first column. We're also going to set place self center and border radius 50%, so that everything is round. Now the next thing, we're going to set something like a radius, and this is basically going to be the distance between the center, dead in the center right there, and the middle of this border track. Okay, so that's going to be half the dimension, the full gap, and half the border. Okay, so this radius is going to be half of the dimension plus the border plus a full gap. Now here we're going to set margin top. This one is going to be calc, and I just realized we should compute something first, so we're going to compute the complementary or not I. So this one is going to be calc 1 minus I. So if I is 0, not I is going to be 1, and if I is 1, not I is going to be 0. And we're also going to compute a sign for I. This one is going to be calc twice I minus 1. Okay, so if I is 0, this is going to be minus 1. If I is 1, this one is going to be 1. Here we're going to have the sign times twice that radius. Okay, so actually if we use here RGBA, something like this, you can see it a bit more clearly. Okay, good. Now we're going to use before and after. So let's set those. So before and after. Before we set anything else, content, because otherwise nothing is going to show up. And their size is going to be set to that of the border. Okay, let's do something like this for now. Let's set a transform here, and this one is going to be rotate. So calc k, which is going to default to k0, which we are going to multiply with 1 turn. Let's say that this k0 is going to default to a 0. Okay, and then I'm going to have translate y. Okay, so we're going to go up. Now we're also going to have a transform here, and this one is going to be rotate calc not I times half a turn, right? So we've rotated the one at the top by half a turn, or 180 degrees, and scale x, and here we're going to use the sign. Okay, so having done this, we are going to move further, and on the after pseudo element we'll be setting k to k1, which defaults to, I don't know, let's say 0.35. Okay, something like that. Now, having done that, let's register those custom properties. So property k0, syntax, this is basically the type, syntax. If I could type, that would be great. And this is going to be number, initial value, zero, and inherits true, because we're going to animate this on the element and we want it to inherit for the pseudos. This is going to be k1, and they're both identical. We can collapse both of them. Now for animation, so let's say we're going to have a percentage, let's say something like 25, and we're going to have a k value, let's say 0.35, something like that. Now here we're going to have, let's collapse this part as well. Keyframes, we're going to have 0% and 25%. Actually, that's going to be like that percentage, right? P. And here we set k0 to 0. Then we're going to have twice, so we move in increments of 1p, and here it's going to be, we're going to have to interpolate 1 minus k. Okay, and then we're going to have something similar 3 times and up to 100%, and it's going to be 1, and this one is going to be K0. I forgot to give it a name there. And here we're going to have K1. Now this one is going to move further sooner, so it's going to start moving right from the beginning. And of course here it's going to be K1 everywhere. So we need to decrease the number there, so that's going to be 1 and that's going to be 2. Okay, and this is going to be just K. So now we can animate. Let's also set an animation duration. Okay, so we're going to have here animation, that animation duration, linear, infinite. Okay, animation name, K0, K1. Let's see it. Okay, so for some reason, oh, I can't spell syntax, so syntax. So syntax, that should have gone. Okay, that was unexpected. Refresh. Please don't be broken afterwards. Okay. It's starting to look like something, and we're going to need here a delay, and this one is going to be not I times minus half of the animation duration. Let's see it now. It's starting to look like something. Here we're going to set something like opacity, and it's a bit hacky to do it like this, but let's say we're going to have, so K1 is always going to be bigger or equal. So if they're both equal, we want them to disappear. Let's see this. Okay, it's starting to look like something. Now here we're going to create a full custom property, and this is going to be linear gradient, current color. Okay, so it's going to look something like this. Here we're also going to use current color. So here we'll be using that full, and we're also going to have second gradient, which is not going to be linear, but yeah, we don't have autocomplete for conic. So this is going to be transparent, current color, transparent. Okay, so here we're going to have calc, and here we're going to have K0 times 100%. Okay, and here again we're going to have a sharp transition and K1, something like this. So let's see it now. Okay, let's make this transparent, and let's see it now. Okay, but we're losing the gap in between, as you can see there. So let's get back our gap, but first let's align things here in a bit nicer manner. Okay, so having done this, we're going to have a mask here, and we're going to have basically 3 layers. So we're going to have a border box layer, out of which we subtract the padding area. So oh yeah, that's a bit strange, but it's going to work like this, right? Let me just show you this. So out of the border box, we're going to subtract everything that's inside, so the padding part. right? So we're going to have just the border with a gap inside, but we also want the content box, so we're going to add that on top. So we're going to have basically three layers. One is going to be border box, one is going to be padding box, and one is going to be content box. And we XOR all three of them. And what we get as a result is going to be the border area and the content box. So that's what we do here. We're going to have something like this. Paste it once more, and this is going to be padding there. And here we can just delete this part because it's going to stretch out anyway. So here we're going to have WebKit mask set to that mask, and of course without compositing, which again I wrote an entire article about and it's going to be linked in the description. So here we're going to have this is going to be mask composite XOR, and mind you, this is the non-standard version. So for the standard version we actually have exclude here. So let's get rid of that WebKit. So this is the standard version. Of course this is not going to work in Firefox because yeah, Houdini. So yeah, registering these custom properties. But for the future, or for when Chrome supports the standard version of the mask, whichever happens first. So yeah, we've done this, and we basically have the functional part of it. One more thing here. So on the assembly, we're going to have an animation. So keyframes, rotate 2, transform, rotate 1 turn. Now here we're going to have animation, rotate, let's make it twice, linear, infinite. So yeah, we have the functional part. Now let's move on to prettifying things. First off, on the body, let's make this full height, so we put the stuff in the middle. So height, something like this. Let's set margin 0 to get rid of that scroll bar. Let's set the background black, and color, make it white. So something like this. Here we're also going to set a filter. So drop shadow, no offset. We're going to set this to the gap and current color. The edge is still a bit too sharp, so blur 1 pixel. That looks better. Okay, so having done this, let's put some color into it. And this is sadly a bit more complicated here because we're going to need to add a wrapper. Now, things would be simpler if we could just use both border radius and border image, but we can't. I'm going to link a demo showing that as well. But for now, also, it would also help us a lot if CSS had trigonometric functions. Again, that could eliminate the need for wrappers, but it is what it is at this point, so yeah. Now, for our load element, we're going to set background inherit. Okay, and we're also going to set place self stretch. And also on the body, we're going to have an after. So let's say it's going to have padding, like, I don't even know, twice the radius, 3 times the radius. Let's see it. content nothing, and let's make it background deep pink. Now if we have something like mix blend mode multiply, this is going to bring on top the darker. So here this deep pink is darker than the white, but everywhere we have black, that's darker than the deep pink. So that's the whole idea. You can, oopsie, this one went broken as well then. So here you can see them separated, and then you can see them overlapping. So you see where we have black, one layer is black, the result is black. Where one layer is white, the result is the other layer. Okay? So this is the multiply blend mode. Everything is going to be linked in the description. However, if you want something more interesting, so let's say we want a gradient. Repeating, let's make this some conic. And we're going to use that color list we already have at the beginning. Let's see it. Let's actually so it's going to look something like this. Now here let's get rid of that sharp change there. So we're going to bring back the first color as well. So something like this. And let's say it's going to repeat itself 3 times. Okay, so that's good. Now, having done this, I think we can increase this a bit. And let's also set overflow hidden here. Okay, so having done this, let's also say we're going to have at 0% and y 0%, so something like this. Okay, and let's say that we want this background to animate in pretty much the same way. So we're going to take this and we're going to have something similar for x, and this is going to be percentage, and this is going to be 0%, and then exactly the same for y. So we can animate them, right? Let's just let's make inherits false here. Because we're going to animate stuff on a pseudo. So keyframes x, and we're going to put this at 50% actually. Okay, because we don't want the timing function to be reversed as well. So this is going to change to y. Okay, so let's say we're going to have animation a 4 times the animation duration, infinite. Yeah, we're not going to alternate it because you have it at 50% and we don't want that to be reversed. And we're going to have animation name, right? X, Y. Okay, but we don't want this to pass through the middle, right? So let's use different timing functions. Let's say we're going to have something like a factor here. Let's say we're going to make it something like 0.25. Okay, and then we're going to have one easing, and this one is going to be 1 minus f, and then f. So let's take this and add it once more here like this, and here is 1. Let's switch up So let's say here we're going to have animation timing function is 0 and then is 1. Let's see it. How is it going to move now? Okay, much nicer. So you can see how it avoids the area where we have much better like this. So if we have the mix blend mode, now I think we can also animate the angle and it's going to look even better. So let's say we're going to have an angle property. So here we're going to have angle. Of course, this is going to be angle. This is going to be 0 degrees. Now I think we can get rid of those values there. So we're going to have from angle, right? And here we are going to use another animation. So this one is going to be angle and it's going to go to angle 1 turn. Okay, so here we're going to have that animation too, and this is going to be linear. So something like this. Let's see it. Let's comment this out a bit. So something like this. And if we uncomment it, we get this nice result here. So yeah, not quite responsive, but oh well. I think we can do something else here. Place content. Something like this. No, still doesn't help for some reason. Oh well, I will just leave it at this. You can just try to make it responsive yourself. But anyway, I do hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you like the work that I'm putting out since the spring of 2012 and you want me to be able to do more in the future, please consider supporting it. You can do so by becoming a patron on Patreon. The link is going to be in the description. Or you can get me something off my Amazon wishlist. Again, the link is going to be in the description. Or you can at least share this to show the world what can be done with CSS these days. Because honestly, I think it's pretty damn cool. In any event, thanks for watching, and until next time. Bye!